I built everything from nothing. A dishwasher at 16, a restaurant owner by 28, and now 15 restaurants, a catering empire, and a legacy I fought for with my own hands. My life was built on sweat, sacrifice, and resilience. But if there's one thing success doesn't prepare you for, it's betrayal. And trust me, betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes from the people you welcome into your home, the ones you call family. Looking back, the signs were there, the questions, the little manipulations, the quiet moves behind my back. But by the time I saw the truth, it was too late. She was already inside. And she wasn't just after my money, she was after everything. Success never comes easy. I was just a kid when I first set foot in a restaurant kitchen, not as an owner, not even as a cook, but as a dishwasher. The steam, the clatter of plates, the smell of food, these became my world. I scrubbed dishes until my fingers wrinkled, stayed late watching the chefs work, and took notes on everything. I told myself, one day this will be mine. And when I turned 28, it was. My first restaurant wasn't much, just a small diner with a flickering neon sign. But it was mine. People think success happens overnight. That's a lie. I burned through sleepless nights, sacrificed weekends, and fought through failures. But with every mistake I learned. I expanded, reinvested, and eventually, what started as a single diner became an empire. 15 restaurants, a catering business, and a legacy I built with my own hands. Nothing was handed to me, and nothing was taken for granted. This wasn't just a business, it was my life. But no empire is built alone. My family was my foundation. My first marriage gave me 2 incredible kids, and even after it ended, I remained a father first. Years later, I found love again with Sarah, a woman who saw me beyond the business. She was my partner, my anchor, until cancer took her away. Losing her nearly broke me, but I had to keep going. My son, my daughter, they needed me to be strong. They needed to see that we don't stop fighting, no matter what life throws our way. And just when I thought I'd survived my hardest battle, life had another test waiting for me. My son got married to a woman named Karen. She seemed sweet, loving, a good fit for our family. At first, I thought he had found what I once had with Sarah. But looking back, there were signs. Small things I ignored, little details I brushed off. Because sometimes the real danger doesn't come from the outside. It's the people you let in that can do the most damage. Family has always been everything to me. After losing Sarah, I held on tighter to what I had left. My son, my daughter, and the business we built together. When my son introduced us to Karen, I was relieved. He seemed happy, and that was enough for me. She had 2 kids from a previous marriage, and while blending families is never easy, we all did our best. I welcomed them with open arms, hoping to create the kind of home where everyone felt safe. Looking back, maybe I was too eager to believe in a perfect picture. At first, everything seemed fine. Karen was charming, polite, maybe a little too interested in our lives, but I chalked it up to enthusiasm. She asked a lot of questions about the business, the properties, even the financials, but I told myself it was just curiosity. After all, she was family now, right? She started showing up at the restaurants, lingering around conversations that had nothing to do with her. I should have paid more attention, but I was too busy running an empire to overanalyze my daughter-in-law's curiosity. I wanted to believe she was just invested in our success, that she saw our family as her own. But then came the little comments. She'd mention how unfair it was that my son and daughter had grown up with everything, while her kids had struggled. She'd joke, always with a laugh, always casual, about how my will must be interesting reading. I brushed it off. People say strange things when they're adjusting to a new life. Besides, what reason did I have to doubt her? But the funny thing about instincts, they don't scream, they whisper. And even then, I ignored them, until the whispers became something I couldn't ignore. At first, it was subtle. Karen would casually bring up financial topics at family dinners, investment, strategies, estate planning, even what happens if something ever happens to you. I shrugged it off. People get curious about money, especially when they marry into success. But then she started asking more specific questions about revenue, contracts, and even the legal structure of the business. That was the first red flag. Why would she care about operational details? She wasn't a partner, she wasn't an investor, she was family. And family didn't need to know those things. Then she started showing up at the restaurants unannounced. Not to eat, not to visit, but to observe. She'd walk through the kitchens like she owned the place, ask staff about supply chains, profits, things only I or my managers should be discussing. A few employees mentioned it to me, but I waved it off. She's just curious, I said. She means well. But curiosity has limits, and she had long since passed them. She wasn't just asking questions, she was looking for something. One day I caught her in my office, flipping through invoices. She didn't even flinch when I walked in. Just trying to understand the business, she said, smiling like she belonged there. I laughed it off, but something gnawed at me. My wife had never cared about the details of my business. Neither had my son. Why was Karen so invested? And why did she seem so comfortable crossing boundaries? I should have drawn the line right there. But when betrayal comes, it doesn't announce itself. It starts as a shadow in the corner of your eye, something you can almost ignore. Almost. Curiosity turned into involvement. Karen wasn't just asking questions anymore. She was making suggestions. Big ones. Out of nowhere, she started talking about modernizing the business, throwing around terms she clearly didn't understand. We should rebrand, she said one day, as if the reputation I'd built over decades was something to toss aside. She even suggested new management strategies, ones that conveniently put her in a position of influence. I laughed it off, but the way she looked at me, she wasn't joking. Then came the real problem. She started digging. Employees told me she was asking about payroll, vendor contracts, things that had nothing to do with her. One night, I caught her in the office again, this time snapping photos of financial statements with her phone. She didn't even look guilty. I just want to help, she said. Help? From someone with no experience in restaurants, no business background? I finally told my son what was happening. He sighed, rubbed his temples, and said, "She just wants to be involved, Dad. But involvement has limits." One morning, my accountant called, confused. "Did you approve Karen to access company accounts?" My stomach dropped. She'd tried to get her name on the financials. I confronted her that night, expecting an apology. Instead, she turned it on me. "Why don't you trust me? I'm family." That word, family, felt different coming from her. Not like something she cherished, like something she wanted to own. That was the moment I realized Karen wasn't here to build a life with my son. She was here for something else entirely, and I was just beginning to understand how far she was willing to go. The conversation started as a casual remark, one of those passing comments people make when they're testing the waters. "I assume everything's split evenly between the kids, right?" Karen asked over dinner one night, her tone light but her eyes sharp. I didn't think much of it. "My kids will be taken care of," I said, "and so will the grandkids." That answer didn't satisfy her. The next time she brought it up, she wasn't asking. She was demanding. She wasn't subtle about it either. "It's not fair," she said, arms crossed. "Why should your biological kids get more than my kids? They're family too." But family isn't just about blood. It's about history, about the sacrifices made along the way. I had set up a trust for all the grandkids, including hers, ensuring they'd have everything they needed. But that wasn't enough. She wanted equal shares. She wanted control. When she realized I wouldn't budge, she escalated. My son, caught in the middle, started feeling the pressure too. "Dad, can we at least talk about it?" he asked one evening, hesitation all over his face. That's when I knew she had gotten to him. She wasn't just pushing me, she was using my son as a weapon. And that's the cruelest kind of manipulation. It wasn't about fairness, it was about greed. But Karen wasn't done yet. She had one more card to play, and when she played it, everything changed. Karen's announcement came out of nowhere. One moment we were sitting in the living room making forced small talk. The next, she dropped the bombshell. "I'm pregnant," she said, a hand resting on her stomach, eyes locked onto mine. My son's face lit up with excitement. Mine? I wasn't sure what I felt, but something about the way she said it, so calculated, so perfectly timed, made my gut tighten. This wasn't just news, this was strategy. And sure enough, it didn't take long for her to use it. "Your grandchild deserves the same as everyone else," she told me one evening, her voice sweet but her meaning sharp. "You wouldn't want them to grow up feeling less important, would you?" I'd already ensured all the grandkids, including hers, had a secure future, but that wasn't what she wanted. She wanted leverage, and she'd just found the perfect one. Then came the worst part, the threat. She waited until we were alone, then leaned in with a smile that made my skin crawl. "If you don't reconsider, the will," she whispered. "Maybe we won't be stopping by as often. Maybe your grandchild won't even know who you are." I stared at her, stunned. This wasn't desperation. This was control. She was playing chess with a life that hadn't even begun yet, and she was daring me to make the next move. I wish I could say I handled it well, that I shut her down right then and there. But the truth? I hesitated. Not because I was afraid of her, but because I was afraid of what this meant for my family. And while I was trying to figure out what to do, Karen was already moving on to her next plan. One that went far beyond manipulation. The first time I caught her, I wanted to believe it was a misunderstanding. A misplaced document, a simple mistake. But Karen didn't make mistakes. She made moves. Late one night, I walked into my office and found her rifling through my desk, phone in hand, snapping pictures of financial records. She didn't even jump when I turned on the light. She just looked up, smiled, and said, "Shouldn't family know where the money's going?" That was the moment I realized. She wasn't just pushing boundaries. She was trying to break them. Then things escalated. Confidential recipes started leaking to competitors. Suppliers mentioned strange calls from someone claiming to represent my company. And then my accountant found something worse. Documents with my signature on them. The problem? I'd never signed them. Karen had forged my name. She wasn't just snooping anymore. She was stealing. I confronted her, expecting some kind of denial. Instead, she doubled down. "I'm only doing what's fair," she said, arms crossed like a child caught with their hand in the cookie jar. But this wasn't a cookie. This was my business, my life's work, and she was trying to take a piece of it for herself. I told her to stay out of my affairs. She just smiled like she knew something I didn't, and maybe she did, because Karen wasn't done yet. She had one more trick up her sleeve. And this time she wasn't just coming for my business, she was coming for my reputation. It happened on a Friday night, our busiest evening of the week. The restaurant was packed, regulars, new guests, families celebrating birthdays. Everything was running smoothly until the front doors swung open and in walked Karen. Not as a customer, not as family, but as a woman on a mission. She didn't just enter, she stormed in, straight to the middle of the dining room where she turned to face the crowd. And then she started yelling. At first, no one knew what was happening. "He's a fraud," she screamed, pointing at me from across the room. "He's been manipulating the family, stealing from his own grandchild." Conversations stopped. Forks clattered onto plates. Every eye in the restaurant was on us. She went on and on, twisting facts, making accusations, painting herself as the victim. And then, as if the show wasn't dramatic enough, she played her final card. "If my husband doesn't stand by me," she declared, voice trembling, "I swear I'll get rid of this baby." Gasps filled the room. Someone started recording. That's when I knew. This wasn't just an outburst. This was a performance designed to destroy me. I saw my son frozen in shock, my staff whispering in disbelief, and Karen, she stood there, eyes scanning the crowd. feeding off the chaos she had just unleashed. But there's something about the truth. It always finds a way out. And as Karen stood there, basking in her moment of manufactured martyrdom, she didn't realize she had just signed her own downfall. Because this time she had gone too far. The moment the video hit the internet, it spread like wildfire. Customers, employees, even people who had never stepped foot in my restaurants were talking about it. At first, Karen thought she had won. She played the victim perfectly, painting me as a greedy old man who refused to take care of his own family. But what she didn't count on was people digging into her past. And once they did, everything unraveled. It started with a few whispers, people mentioning that her story didn't quite add up. Then came the emails, the phone calls, strangers reaching out saying they recognized her, that she had done this before. Turns out Karen had a history, a long one, multiple marriages, legal battles over inheritance, suspicious financial transactions. My lawyer found records of her manipulating wills, faking signatures, even attempting to siphon money from past in-laws. This wasn't just about me. This was her pattern. With the evidence piling up, I knew what had to be done. My legal team moved quickly. Fraud charges, attempted theft, invasion of property. And just like that, the woman who had strutted into my life demanding control found herself sitting in a courtroom, facing a judge who wasn't nearly as charmed by her as my son once had been. The sentence? 18 months. Not long, but long. Enough for everyone to see her for what she really was. As I watched her being led away in handcuffs, I didn't feel anger. I didn't even feel satisfaction. Just relief. Because for the first time in a long time, my family was finally free from her grip. And now, it was time to pick up the pieces. Karen was gone, but the damage she left behind wasn't so easily erased. My son was devastated, not just because of what she did, but because he had let it happen right under his nose. I told him the truth. When you love someone, you ignore the signs you don't want to see. We've all done it. But now he had to focus on what mattered most, the baby. And after a tough legal battle, he won full custody. My grandson would grow up surrounded by love, not manipulation. As for Karen's older children, they were placed with their maternal grandparents, people who genuinely cared for them. They deserved better than a mother who saw them as bargaining chips. I made sure they were financially secure, not because of Karen, but because those kids were innocent in all of this. I wasn't about to let her mistakes define their future. The scandal that rocked my business could have ruined us. Instead, it made us stronger. Customers supported us more than ever, employees felt like family, and my restaurants thrived. There's something about surviving a storm. It makes you appreciate the calm even more. And now, without Karen lurking in the shadows, life finally felt calm. I won't pretend this didn't change me. It did. I learned that trust is a gift, not a guarantee. That sometimes the people you welcome into your home are the ones who will try to burn it down. But I also learned something else. When you build your life on honesty, resilience, and hard work, no one can take it from you. Not even a Karen.
Keep watching our stories by clicking on one of the videos that appear on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to be alerted about new videos. See you next time.